My sister shoved a tissue into my hand at her engagement party and told me, "Wipe your face before you ruin the photos." Everyone laughed like it was the funniest thing they'd ever heard. None of them knew that I'd already reserved the floating chapel at Marina Bay for myself. I'm Lily, I'm 34, and I've worn the crown of family disappointment most of my life. While my sister, Chloe, mapped out her picture-perfect wedding using our parents' endless checkbook, I was out working back-to-back shifts as a marine biologist. Every dollar I made went toward rent for my tiny studio apartment, which usually smelled like the tide rolling out on a hot day. I didn't have Chloe's shine. She was the social butterfly with the sorority sisters, the country club, and a fiancé whose family practically owned the city skyline. Me? I had research grants, soggy notebooks, and a relentless drive to save coral reefs, something nobody in my family cared enough to understand. What they didn't realize, though, was that I had something money couldn't buy: patience, vision, and a community of scientists who valued genuine work over polished appearances. And if you've ever been the sibling in the shadows while your family worships the golden child, you know exactly how isolating it feels. Drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from. I read every single one, and honestly, your stories keep me going. They remind me we're stronger than they give us credit for. The funny thing about being written off is that it gives you the freedom to plan in secret. While Chloe spent a year and a half agonizing over fonts and floral arrangements, I was quietly building something that would turn everything upside down. The real betrayal started 3 months before her wedding. I'd been with Ethan, another marine researcher, for 2 years. We kept things private because, well, my family had a talent for ruining anything I cared about. Chloe's engagement party was held at the yacht club. I actually made an effort that night, wore my nicest dress, styled my hair, and tried, for once, to just fit in without stirring up drama. "Lily's here," Chloe called out when I walked in, her tone syrupy and fake. "Look, everyone, my sister actually owns clothes that aren't muddy boots." Her sorority crowd giggled on cue. I forced a polite smile and drifted toward the gift table. That's when I caught her voice again, sharp and smug, as she chatted with our cousin Ava near the champagne fountain. "You should see this guy Lily's been hiding," Chloe whispered, scrolling on her phone. "I found his social media. Cute enough, I guess, but he drives a beat-up truck and lives in some shoebox by the docks." "Can you imagine?" "Wait, is that the marine biologist she mentioned?" Ava asked. "Yeah. And honestly, I'm thinking of inviting him to my wedding. Not for Lily, obviously, but Ethan seems interesting. Outdoorsy. Weddings are always better with single guys around." My stomach dropped. Chloe had no idea Ethan and I were together. To her, he was just another toy she could snatch because she felt like it. "You can't be serious," Ava laughed. "Oh, I am," Chloe smirked. "I've already slid into his DMs, told him I'm Lily's sister and that I'd love to meet him. He seems sweet, like he probably hasn't met many women like me." I stood frozen, clutching my purse, while my sister plotted how she'd charm my boyfriend, as if he were a prize at her party. And then came the kicker. When I finally walked up to them, Chloe didn't even skip a beat. She just handed me that stupid tissue and said, "Clean yourself up before you embarrass us in the photos." Right on cue, our parents appeared, glowing with pride like Chloe had just cured cancer. "Isn't she radiant?" Mom beamed. "The wedding will be flawless. 300 guests, a live orchestra, imported flowers." Dad puffed up, grinning. "Worth every penny. Our princess deserves the very best." I stood there invisible, listening to them gush about her perfect wedding while she schemed to steal my boyfriend. And in that moment, something inside me shifted. I decided I was done being the afterthought. I left that party with a smile, and a very clear plan for revenge. The first real escalation came 2 weeks later. Chloe had, in fact, reached out to Ethan, and he told me about it right away. She'd invited him to lunch, framing it as a way to get to know Lily's friends before the big day. Ethan thought it was thoughtful. I knew better. "She kept asking me about my work," Ethan explained that night. But the questions were weird. Stuff like how much marine biologists usually make, whether I owned property, if my family had money. She seemed disappointed when I told her I rent. That was classic Chloe, sizing people up like livestock at an auction. The second betrayal hit when I tried to bring Ethan as my +1 to the wedding. Chloe wasted no time shutting that down. Lily, honey, she said over the phone, her voice dripping with fake concern, I already invited Ethan separately. He's such a catch, and I don't want him stuck babysitting you all night. He deserves the chance to meet some eligible women at my wedding. Don't you think that'd be nice for him? Chloe, he's my boyfriend. She laughed. Actually laughed. Your boyfriend? Lily, come on. You've been single for 3 years. Don't make up fairy tales just because you're embarrassed to show up alone. We've been together for 2 years, I said firmly. Right, she scoffed. And I'm dating Brad Pitt. Then she hung up. That was the moment it sank in, Chloe truly couldn't imagine that Ethan would choose me over her. In her world, every attractive, successful man automatically belonged in her orbit. The third betrayal was the cruelest. A week before the wedding, she called a family meeting. I need to address Lily's situation, she announced, perched on Mom's pristine white sofa like she was holding court. Dad frowned. What situation? Her delusion about Ethan, Chloe sighed. She's been telling people he's her boyfriend, and it's humiliating. What if she makes a scene at my wedding? I glared at her. You want to tell them, or should I? Tell us what? Mom asked, uneasy. Chloe smiled like a saint. Lily's convinced she's dating this marine biologist I invited. But Ethan told me they're just colleagues. She's confused. I have pictures of us together, I said. Friend pictures? Chloe shrugged. Lily, it's okay to have crushes, but you can't go around claiming men are your boyfriends just because they're nice to you. Our parents exchanged nervous glances. They'd seen me struggle with relationships before, and her version of the story seemed believable. Sweetheart, Mom said gently, maybe you should talk to someone. These kinds of misunderstandings can be unhealthy. I felt like the ground was disappearing beneath me. My own family thought I was delusional. Ethan and I have been living together for 6 months, I said quietly. For just a second, Chloe's eyes widened. Then she smoothed it over. Living together? He told me he lives alone by the marina. Why would you say that, Lily? Because it was true. Ethan had been spending more and more time at my place, and we'd only just started talking about making it official. But I realized Chloe had been twisting his words from their lunch, bending every detail to fit her narrative. You know what? I stood up. Believe whatever story you want, but Ethan is coming to the wedding as my date, whether you like it or not. Chloe smirked and pulled out her phone. Actually, I already seated him at the singles table with my college friends. They can't wait to meet him. That night, I sat alone in my cramped apartment, staring at the blank walls. My family had decided I was a delusional failure, my sister was openly plotting to steal my boyfriend, and in less than a week I'd be forced to watch her strut around in a gown that cost more than I made in a year, treating Ethan like he was just another accessory for her big day. For a while, I let myself feel pitiful. But then I remembered something I'd nearly buried under all of Chloe's drama. 3 months earlier, an email had landed in my inbox that changed everything. The Oceanic Research Foundation had officially approved my grant proposal for the coral restoration project. They'd committed full funding for 3 years and wanted to produce a documentary around it. At the time, I'd been too distracted by Chloe's theatrics to fully absorb it. But sitting there that night, it hit me like a tidal wave. I had opportunities my sister couldn't even dream of. I flipped open my laptop and started dialing numbers. What Chloe didn't know, what nobody in my family knew, was that the career they all dismissed as worthless had just catapulted me into a league of my own. The email from Dr. Naomi Lynn at the Oceanic Research Foundation was still sitting in my inbox, glowing like buried treasure. Congratulations, Lily. Your coral restoration proposal has been selected for full funding, $2. 3 million over 3 years. We'd also like to discuss the documentary opportunity and the possibility of establishing a permanent research station. When that message first arrived, I was so stunned I'd barely told Ethan, let alone my family. After years of scrambling for scraps, piecing together small grants, working temporary contracts, and living off takeout noodles, I was suddenly the lead researcher on one of the boldest marine conservation projects in the Pacific. But that wasn't the half of it. Dr. Lynn's foundation had ties that went far beyond science. tech billionaires bankrolling ocean initiatives, Hollywood producers eager to make conservation glamorous, even a luxury yacht company that specialized in building floating research facilities. "We're envisioning something the world hasn't seen before," Dr. Lin had told me on a video call. "A mobile research base that also functions as an event venue. Donors love to feel part of the mission, and what better way to showcase conservation than to let them live it, even for a day?" They wanted to launch the project with a splashy media event, something that would spark headlines and reel in more support. Dr. Lin suggested a dedication ceremony, maybe even a ribbon cutting. That's when the idea struck me. "What about a wedding?" I asked. "Nothing symbolizes new beginnings like two people committing their lives to each other, especially in a way that also highlights protecting the ocean." She lit up immediately. "That's genius. We could film it for the documentary, show the intersection of science and love. Do you know anyone who might be interested?" For the first time in weeks, I smiled. Actually, I might have the perfect couple in mind. Ethan didn't know about the grant yet. I wanted to surprise him. Truthfully, part of me still struggled to believe it myself. But as Chloe's wedding day crept closer, and her cruelty kept escalating, I began sketching out a plan that would prove to my family exactly who they had been underestimating all these years. They thought I was the failure, the oddball, the sister who couldn't hold on to a man. What they didn't realize was that I was about to step into the spotlight as one of the most recognized marine biologists of my generation. 3 days before Chloe's wedding, I finally told Ethan everything, about the grant, the documentary, the yacht, and about Chloe's disgusting little scheme to steal him. "She did what?" Ethan blinked at me across our tiny kitchen table. "Lily, why didn't you tell me any of this sooner?" "Because I wanted to see how far she'd go," I admitted. "And because I needed time to build something bigger." I opened my laptop and showed him Dr. Lin's emails, the grant agreements, the yacht specifications. With every document, his eyes grew wider. "You're telling me we could actually get married on a research vessel, in front of cameras, and it would kickstart your career?" "Our careers," I corrected him. "They want you listed as the marine ecosystem specialist. It's right here in the contract." Ethan leaned back, stunned into silence. Then he laughed. "Your sister has no idea, does she?" "Not a clue." He pulled out his phone and slid it across the table. "Chloe's been blowing up my messages. Read these." The texts made my stomach twist, Chloe flirting shamelessly, hinting at exploring their connection after her wedding, telling him I was just a clingy friend. "She actually thinks I'd buy this crap?" Ethan shook his head. "Lily, she even said your parents are worried about your mental health. She called you delusional." That burned, but instead of breaking me down, it just steeled my resolve. "There's more," I said, pulling up another email. "The producers want to broadcast our ceremony live, stream it to marine biology conferences around the world. Dr. Lin thinks it could launch an entire series on conservation." Ethan broke into a grin. "So while your sister's busy hosting her fancy country club wedding, we'll be tying the knot on a yacht, with scientists, donors, cameras, and full media coverage." I nodded. "It's set for Saturday afternoon. We'll be done before her reception even begins. And your family will see it. Everyone will. The stream's going live on National Geographic's site." He leaned back, shaking his head in disbelief. "Lily, your sister's going to lose her mind." "Probably. And your parents will finally see how wrong they've been about you." "Definitely. And I get to marry the man who's been my partner in everything, while launching both our careers." I felt tears burn in my eyes. After weeks of being called delusional, hearing Ethan believe in me was like breathing again after drowning. "If you want to," I whispered. He squeezed my hands across the table. "Lily, I've been ready since our first research dive. I was just waiting for you to say yes." That same night, while Chloe fought with her florist over roses and obsessed over her seating chart, Ethan and I sent out wedding invitations, not to family, they'd forfeited their place, but to our research partners, conservation donors, and the documentary crew. The yacht was reserved. The cameras were booked. Chloe had no idea what was about to hit her. When Saturday morning rolled around, the weather couldn't have been more perfect. While Chloe was locked in a dressing room at the country club fussing over her hair and makeup, I was already standing on the deck of the Coral Crown, a 200-foot research yacht gleaming in the sunlight off Marina Bay. Dr. Lin had pulled out all the stops. The yacht was breathtaking, polished white decks, sweeping panoramic views, a helipad transformed into our ceremony stage, even underwater observation chambers where guests could watch the reef during the reception. 30 minutes until we go live, the producer called out. Dr. Lily Martinez, are you ready? I smoothed down my simple white dress. Nothing flashy, just clean and elegant, perfect for an ocean ceremony. I'm ready. Ethan looked incredible in a tailored navy suit, but more than that, he looked relaxed, genuinely happy. The stress I'd carried for months seemed to fall away in that moment. The guest list was small, but powerful, renowned marine scientists, conservation philanthropists, and even a few celebrities who had thrown their weight behind ocean research. And Dr. Lin had arranged for none other than Captain Isabella Cruz, a legend in the exploration world, to officiate the ceremony. At exactly 2 p.m., the cameras went live. The ceremony itself felt like something out of a dream. Captain Cruz spoke with such power, about the ocean as a symbol of limitless possibility, about two people choosing to dive into life's depths together. While Ethan and I stood there exchanging vows, whales actually breached in the distance, like they were part of the moment. I promise to love you as deeply as the ocean, I told him, my voice catching, and to support your dreams as faithfully as the tides. Guests wiped tears from their eyes. Every second was caught on film, and somewhere across the world, thousands of people were watching it unfold in real time. When we sealed it with a kiss, Captain Cruz pronounced us husband and wife. The applause hadn't even died down before Dr. Lin stepped forward and took the microphone. What you've witnessed today is more than a wedding, she announced. Dr. Lily Martinez Coleman and Dr. Ethan Coleman are about to launch the most ambitious coral restoration project in the history of marine biology. This vessel will serve as their floating laboratory for the next 3 years, documenting groundbreaking work that could change the future of our oceans. She gestured toward a massive display board behind her. $3 million in funding, courtesy of the Oceanic Research Foundation and the generous donors joining us here today. The crowd erupted. The sound of applause rolled across the deck like thunder. But the real tidal wave hit later, during the reception, when my phone started buzzing non-stop. Calls, texts, notifications flooding in. Chloe's wedding guests had seen the live stream, and the story was already going viral on social media. My parents were the first to get through. Lily, honey, we're watching the National Geographic broadcast, Mom said breathlessly. Is this real? Are you actually getting married on a yacht with all these famous people? I could hear Chloe shrieking in the background. Yes, Mom, I said calmly. That's my husband, Ethan. And this is my career. The one you all thought didn't matter. But sweetheart, we had no idea. Because you never asked, I cut in. You never wanted to know about my work or my life. You just assumed I was the failure. Then Chloe snatched the phone. Lily, you can't do this. It's my wedding day. You're stealing my thunder. I looked around me, at my colleagues raising champagne glasses, at Ethan glowing with pride, at the ocean glittering endlessly in every direction. Chloe, your ceremony doesn't even start for another 4 hours. I'm not stealing anything. I'm just living my life. But people are talking about you instead of me, she wailed. My guests are watching your stupid live stream during my wedding. Maybe, I said evenly, they're just more interested in actual accomplishment than in table centerpieces. For once, Chloe had no comeback. The line went quiet before her voice returned, smaller, desperate. Lily, please, ask them to take it down. Just for today. I'll do anything. It was the first time in my life I'd ever heard her beg me for anything. No, Chloe. The stream stays. The documentary continues. And Ethan and I will be spending our honeymoon doing what we love, marine research in some of the most beautiful waters on Earth. I ended the call and powered off my phone. For the first time in 34 years, my family's opinions meant absolutely nothing. Our honeymoon was perfect. We anchored off the coast of Bice, diving into turquoise waters, collecting samples, mapping coral colonies. The documentary team captured every second, and the footage was already generating a buzz across the scientific community. Dr. Lin called it the perfect marriage of science and storytelling. Meanwhile, the calls from my family never stopped. 100 missed calls piled up, just like the title of this story promised. Voicemails ranged from angry to pleading to pitiful. I learned later that Chloe's wedding was a disaster. Guests spent more time streaming our ceremony than paying attention to hers. I never picked up. 3 months later, when our first published findings landed on the cover of Marine Biology Today, I finally called my parents back. "We're proud of you," Dad said softly. "We should have listened sooner. It was something, I guess." But standing on the deck of our floating laboratory, watching dolphins play in the wake, I realized I didn't need their validation anymore. I'd built something meaningful without them. So if you've ever been underestimated by your own family, I want to hear about it. Leave a comment and tell me where you're watching from. I really do read them all. Because sometimes, the sweetest revenge isn't screaming or making a scene. Sometimes it's just living so well, so loudly, that their opinions fade into nothing. If this story hit home for you, hit that subscribe button. And remember, you never know what someone's truly capable of until you give them a reason to prove you wrong. Now tell me, what would you have done in my shoes?